In the span of like 1 year, I got two abortions, I got kicked out of my house, and I got emancipated. I had just turned 16 when it all started. So my mom was like, I can't believe this law exists. I can't believe you would take that choice out of parents' rights. And so my mom ended up suing the state.
Your mom
and she
sued
won.
the state? Your mom sued the state and won?
Hello?
Hi, what's your name?
Ariana?
What's going on, Ariana? How's life?
You know, it's lifing.
I feel that, brother. Well, what do you want to talk about today?
Okay, well, this happened like 2.5 years ago, but basically, in the span of like 1 year, I got two abortions, I got kicked out of my house, and I got emancipated.
This was when you were 18?
I was 17, actually. I had just turned 16 when it all started.
I guess, before we get into anything, how you doing now? Are you chilling?
Yeah, I'm actually great now. I'm in college. I've been living on my own since then. I'm still with my boyfriend, who it all happened with.
So, if you want to get into it, what happened?
Okay. So, let me just preface this with some backstory. My dad is, like, not really in my life. And, like, my mom is, like, a really bad opioid addict and alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of this happened, like, a year after COVID happened. So it was, like, February 2021. And so me and my boyfriend had been together it had almost been a year. And on his 17th birthday, I found out I was pregnant. And so I, like, internally knew what I was going to do. Like, I always knew if that ever happened to me, like, what my decision was. And, like, luckily Roe v. Wade wasn't overturned or anything. So I knew, like, I had options. And my boyfriend, like, fully supported me. He was like, if you want to have it, I'm down to do that. If you don't, I'm down to do that. So he was, like, very, very supportive.
So you were 16
kind of
and he was... So you were 16 and he was 17?
I had just turned 16. I had just turned 17 the week before.
Oh my
so,
God,
like,
okay.
Technically I was 16 whenever I got pregnant, whenever that happened in, like, January, December. And then I just turned 17 when I found out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so your boyfriend was supportive and everything was all aligned?
Yeah, like, me and him were good. I hadn't told my mom yet, and it's actually the craziest story how she found out. I was on the phone with one of my friends, and she was at the place we worked at, and she had me on speakerphone, and someone else we worked with overheard it, and they knew a friend of my family. So, like, word kind of got around back to my mom, and she ended up confronting me about it.
What did that confrontation look like?
Honestly, it wasn't that bad. It was, I heard this. Is it true? I was like, yeah. She was like, well, like, do you know how far along you are? I was like, maybe 8 weeks or something like that. And she was like, well, do you know what you want to do? I was like, yeah, like, I don't want to have it. Like, I want to get the procedure done. And she was like, okay, well, I fully support you, this and that. And then I had, like, already done some research on it. And she was like, I'll drive you to Texas or Mississippi if necessary. We'll do whatever we have to do. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, my mom hadn't, like, it's never really, like, been, like, very supportive in my life because she's always been kind of absent or, like, kind of selfish with her decisions with drugs. And so I was like, cool, like, yes, absolutely, like, thank you. Like, I'll start, like, calls on Monday because this is, like, on a weekend. And then a week later, she basically cornered me in my room whenever she was using and she was drunk, and it was, like, 2 a.m. And she was like, you're having this baby no matter what you think. I'm the adult. I have to sign in order, because in my state, at least at the time, you had to have one parents sign off on it. Like, you couldn't sign off if you were a minor. And since my dad's not really in my life, she knew that wasn't an option. So she was like, you're having it because I'm saying it. And I still, to this day, do not know what caused that change.
So
It was
she
in a matter of like a few days.
So she went from, she found out, she was totally supportive. She was like, I'll drive you to another state if I have to. And then she just comes into your room drunk at 2 a.m. and switches up on you?
Yeah, it was a very common occurrence for her to like barge in my room at 2 a.m. just for like random things or not. But it was absolutely crazy to me because like we hadn't talked about it since then. Like I was just like trying to figure out what would be the best route to go about it so she didn't have to do any of the planning. And then all of a sudden it was just, you're having this baby, it's what I say goes, and that was it. That's
fucking wild.
Yeah, and so in my state, at least at the time, there was something called I forgot the name, but it was a bypass law, and it was if you went to court and a judge determined that you were mature enough to have like an abortion, they'll grant you permission from the court to get an abortion if you're a minor.
Wait, so you go in front of a court and the court judges if you're mature enough to have an abortion?
Crazy.
How do they?
Crazy.
What's the? First of all, that's insane because that's insane because what are they going to do? Be like, you know what? You're not mature enough to have an abortion, but I guess how can you not be mature enough to have an abortion, but then be mature enough to have a baby?
That was my debacle, and I had to like get in contact with the it was like a pro bono agency or like online website. Well, I'll just say my state. I'm from Louisiana. And so online, they have these like volunteer lawyers who will like represent you for free, talk you through the procedure, like how the court stuff is going to go. And at the time, it was online court not only because of COVID, but because I lived like in the middle of my state and there's only like 3 clinics in my state. So the closest one was like 2.5 hours away. So they just did it via Zoom court.
So is that what ended up happening? You went in front of a judge and like had to get like evaluated as to whether or not you could get an abortion?
Yeah, well, I was really sick. I had like something called hypermesis or hyperemesis, something like that, hypergonorrhea. It's like a really long name, but I had like perpetual like morning sickness like all the time. Like I was like losing weight. So I had to drop out of school and basically like live in the hospital. So it was really hard to go around my mom to like meet with the lawyers like on call and like on Zoom and anything with her not being there.
Dude, so
it took me like a couple weeks to get it done.
So okay, I have more questions about this whole process, but before we do that, just like, so your mom, she was supportive, and then she was like drunken on drugs and cornered you, but then like, I guess did she? Was she going back and forth between like drunk and fuck you and sober and supportive, or was like what was her deal during this time with you? Was she flip-flopping? Did she kind of change and stay with her position? Like what was her deal?
After that initial first flip-flop, she like stayed her position, like using or sober. She was like, you're having it no matter what, no matter this, no matter that. And whenever we would argue about it, because I would try and plead my case, the conversations always got a lot more aggressive whenever she was using, and it was always at night. But her whole logic or standpoint was, she's my mom, so I can't consent, so she's going to consent for me. And she wants me to have this baby, so that's what's going to happen.
So how did you get around her? So you found this lawyer that was helping you out that so tell me, I mean, what did the kind of procedure look like? Not the medical procedure, but like the legal proceedings.
So basically my lawyer like filled out all the legal jargon of like the petition to the court, and then whenever it came time for like my actual court date, I like basically just locked myself in my room and told my mom I was doing like homework, like online schoolwork, and told her that like she needed to be out of the house because I was gonna have to like talk with my teachers and stuff like that. And like if like I tried to use every excuse in the book to get her out the house, like be outside. And so I got on Zoom, and it was the judge, the clerk, my lawyer, and then like a few other people that like just had to be there for like their purposes. And then the judge, like, I'm so sorry, this is like the first time I'm speaking about this, and I'm like super nervous, but I'm like, promise I'm okay about it.
Okay.
The judge just asked me a series of questions like, how old are you? What is your life like? Is the father still in the picture? What are your hopes and dreams? Like, just kind of like basic stuff, like just trying to get to know me. Mm-hmm. And then she just kind of was like, why do you think you want an abortion? Or why do you think you need an abortion? Why do you think an abortion is going to make your life better than having this baby? And kind of like questions like that. And then, like, once I answered those, she was kind of like, okay, well, why do you want an abortion instead of, like, putting it up for adoption or this and that? And, like, that's whenever I kind of went into the whole, like, I'm so sick, I've had to, like, drop out of high school. And I was a junior at the time, so it was, like, really, like, time to kick it in high drive for college.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just kind of pleaded my case and, like, told them about, like, my mom and, like, that situation. And she ended up like granting me access.
Oh my God, man. That's really, really fucking crazy that they're like, it's just such a wild thing to evaluate someone for, to be like, why do you think it would be better to have an abortion versus like having a whole fucking ass baby? Like, you know, I mean, that's just wild. So, I mean, was it, how shortly after that proceeding did you get like the email or whatever where they granted you the permission?
I got it immediately. They like, it's like a actual like court document that you have to like bring to the clinic to like show that like they allowed you. They don't like fax it or anything. So I had to like get it faxed over to me, which I had to go through like my boyfriend's aunt because I couldn't have it done at my house because my mom was going to see it. Mm-hmm. And then I had to, because my state has like a, or at the time it did, where you had to wait so many hours in between like your first initial visit and your like actual appointment visit. And so like at the time, my mom still has no idea any of this is happening or that I've been granted this. Mm-hmm. And so I have to drive, me and my boyfriend have to drive 2.5 hours to where the clinic is, like from where I live. And so I had to make up an excuse that we needed to sleep at my boyfriend's house, or like we were going to sleep at my boyfriend's house for whatever reason, just so we could go like drive the 2.5 hours to the appointment. And so we go to the appointment. I do like what I need to do, like all the necessary like blood work. They ask if I have any questions, that kind of stuff. And then I have to go back a week later for the actual procedure. So then, like, this whole time, like, I've been to, like, the clinic and everything, and, like, I'm just, like, trying so hard not to have my mom, like, hear any of my calls or, like, see anything like that or, like, any of the, like, paperwork that they gave me or anything like that. And then on the, like, day of the actual procedure, I had to, like, or the night before, actually, I had to lie again and say that we were sleeping at my boyfriend's house because of, like, whatever reason. And the actual day of the procedure, it was, like, an 8-hour day because I wasn't allowed to have my phone, and it was, like, 30 other women there, like, having, like, some kind of, like, womanly procedure done. And so the whole time I'm in there, I don't have my phone. My boyfriend has my phone, and he tells me, like, whenever I get out, my mom was blowing up my phone. Call after call, text after text. She's like, I know you're there. I know you're doing this. I just have this feeling. Answer me. Why aren't you answering me? And my boyfriend's like trying to text her like as it's me, but she like keeps trying to call. And it was just, it was, when I got out of there and I finally called her, it was not pretty.
What was that conversation like?
Well, I was really drugged up. Let me first by saying that. Like, they had given me, like, some, like, really strong anti-nausea stuff. And so I was, like, barely conscious. Like, I was like half asleep, half not. And like, I had just gotten this like procedure done, so I was like obviously not in the right state of mind. And I was like, I answered, and I'm like, hello? And she's like, Ariana, where are you? And at that point, I'm like, well, it's already happened. There's no use of lying. I'm like, I'm in the city. And then she's like, why are you there? And I'm like, because I did the thing. And like, I told her. And she just like lets out the most like heart-wrenching scream, cry, like she could. Like she lost her own child. Like, it was so crazy. And it's so crazy that I can still hear that scream. And she was just like, how dare you do this to me? Like, I said no, this, and that. And I'm like, I can't really talk right now. Like, I'll be home in a few hours. And so we end up driving back, and I'm like passed out the whole time. And I just like end up, like, she texts me like not to come home. I'm like, well, okay. So I sleep at my boyfriend's house. And then the next day, I go to get my car because I assume she's kicking me out. So I'm just like, I go and I have my hands up, and my boyfriend's like in his car, and I'm like, I'm just here to get my clothes in my car. That's it. And she was like, she called me a murderer. First off, she literally chased me out of the house, calling me a murderer in front of all of our neighbors on the street, in front of everybody. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get my car and my clothes, Mom. I'm just trying to get my car and my clothes. And then she's like just calling me a murderer, all this and that. I'm like in full-blown tears at this point. Like, and I just get in the car and I leave because I'm like, well, I'm not getting my clothes on my car.
So did you ever go back and get your stuff from the house?
Oh, yeah. There's, like, a lot more after that. So, like, a few days go by, and she, like, eventually lets me back in the house, and, like, we have, like, kind of, like, a heart-to-heart, and I, like, tell her my side. She tells me her side, and her side is basically just, all of a sudden, she, like, became religious, and, like, she couldn't imagine killing her own flesh and blood. And I'm like, that's crazy. You've never taken me to church before. And so, like, that was kind of, like, her preposition, like, looking at it and why she couldn't, like, allow it. Because it was technically, like, she just kind of understood that it was her choice and not my choice. And so she was like, I can't allow this. If it's my choice, I can't allow this. But I was able to, like, move back in, and like we were okay for a few months. And then, so mind you, this whole time, like before I got pregnant and like right after I had the first procedure, I was on birth control. Like, I religiously take my birth control with my vitamins in the morning.
And you still got pregnant on birth control?
Yep. And I got pregnant again on birth control, like 3 months later.
So I know you said
and, like,
that So I know you said that happened again, but just I guess real quick, I'm so you and your mom kind of like, so tensions were like incredibly crazy, fucking high. She chases you out of the house, and then how many days later is it that you guys like, you know,
I want to say
have this talk with each other?
Maybe 5 days to a week. We didn't have any contact.
And how's that happen? Does she reach out? Do you reach out?
I want to say she reached out, and because like this whole time I'm like living at my boyfriend's house.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like this happened. I want to say it was like kind of the last 2 weeks of May, like whenever she called me that, and like we didn't talk. And then by like the 1st of June, she like let me back in the house. So I want to say, because my grandma was like also really heavily involved, but she's like very religious, but like she like still loves me. She was like kind of like mending the fence of like, I don't want you to do this, but I understand it's your choice, but you're doing this, but you're doing that. And so I think via me talking to my grandma and explaining my point of view and how I'm seeing things, and her talking to my mom kind of eased the barrier, because like she was kind of the division between us. So like we were getting both each other's points via my grandma, who was like a very neutral influence between us both. Like I knew she supported my mom, but I knew she also supported me, and I think my mom knew the same. So I think like because my grandma was able to like talk to her and kind of like explain my side a little bit more, and like kind of like almost as a mom talk to her, been like, look, this is your child, like, you know,
Right.
like she made a choice for herself. I
Right.
think that kind of like eased my mom off the fence. And also she had
Yeah.
stopped using for like once I had gotten the procedure done, and she had like, she's like, I want to say she went full dry, like pills and drinking for a bit. I want to say for maybe like a month or two. And so I think like her being sober too, like helped ease her forgiveness to me.
And so, okay, you have the procedure, everything blows up. Around 5 days later, your grandma talks a little bit of sense into your mom. You and your mom have a rekindling of sorts, and in that rekindling, you know, are you go back home, and you were living at your boyfriend's for those 5 days, and then you go back home and you live in your house with your mom again?
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you feeling with your mom? Are the tensions like lower at this point? Are you guys able to like, you know, be around each other?
Was like it's very obvious that she still has a lot of resentment and anger towards me. But in like the first month, it wasn't that bad because I got a job like really soon after. And so I was just like literally working 45 hours a week, like just trying to be out of the house as much as physically possible. And then like the rest of the time I would just like be at my boyfriend's or hanging out with him. So I was out of the house pretty much from like morning until night.
And so you get pregnant again.
Yeah.
And you're on birth control, but you got pregnant on birth control twice?
Yeah.
Is that like a statistical anomaly?
Yeah, my OB was like, I can't believe I'm seeing you again.
Really?
They couldn't believe it themselves because they had prescribed me the birth control both times. And it had worked for 2 years beforehand. Like I had sex and had never gotten pregnant.
Dude, that's crazy. What is the, I mean, what's the math on that? Do you know?
Maybe like 1 out of 100 to 500,000, maybe.
Man,
maybe more.
You know, if only you got a
so
scratch off instead of a baby.
I know, right? If only I was legal enough.
So
I could be a millionaire.
So I mean, tell me, man, what happened the second go round?
Okay, so before the second time, my mom ended up suing the state. Like, my mom was like, I can't believe this law exists. I can't believe you would take that choice out of parents' rights. And so my mom ended up suing the state.
Your mom
won.
the state? Your mom sued the state and won? Wait, okay, hold on. This is before you get pregnant the second time.
Yeah, this is like right after she found out on the first one. So like that first
She sued the state and won. What the fuck happened?
So like basically she teamed up with this group of pro-life lawyers and like wrote a letter to the legislative being like, this is my experience, and then like said exactly what happened. As a parent, I can't believe this law exists, yada, yada, yada. And I guess it caused enough uproar that they changed the law to where if you wanted, it's called judicial bypass. If you wanted judicial bypass, you had to now go in court in your parish instead of the parish that the clinic was in, which is why I was doing online Zoom, because I was meeting with a judge 2.5 hours away. So now if you wanted that, you had to do it in your parish. And so Louisiana has maybe 60 something parishes. Only 3 of them ever saw these type of cases. So by the time my second one rolls around, I have to be the guinea pig of my parish's judicial system in
Yo.
testing whether or not they're going to allow me this, because it's
Okay.
never happened before because the law just changed.
All right, I have a stupid. All right, we'll get into this, but I have a stupid question first.
There's no stupid questions.
What? All right, what is a parish?
Okay, a parish is like a county. It's like Louisiana's version of county.
Ah, okay, all right. I thought it was like
Like
I
how
thought it
we
was like a
divide
church.
up.
I don't know why. I thought it was a church. You know why I thought it was a church? Because there's like a Left 4 Dead.
No.
This is a video game. It's called Left 4 Dead. In Left 4 Dead 2, there's a fucking map called, and it has the word parish in it, and it takes place in a church. Whatever. Okay, so so your mom fucking sues the state, wins, changes the laws so that you can't go to a different county to get your judicial bypass, and so now you get pregnant a second time. 1 in 100,000 chance, and now you have to be the first person to get your judicial bypass exclusively in the county that you are local to.
Yes, and my mother knew about the second one because she came to the hospital with me because I thought I was just sick, and I ended up testing positive, and so she found out at the exact same time as me.
Your mom.
Yeah.
And what happened then?
I told her I wasn't going to have it, and she said, well, don't bother coming back to the house, and got out of the hospital room and left me.
Was that the last time you saw her?
No, ironically. She got up, left. I had to call my boyfriend to come pick me up. I got in contact with those people again, and we started the process to do it in my county.
Fuck, you have to
And
just
my
do this
mom-
whole thing all over again?
Yeah, and my mom ended up suing me and the state. Well, she sued everybody. So she sued me, she sued the attorney general, she sued the governor, and she sued the legislative branch.
Did she win?
No, because ironic. Oh my god, everything about this story is ironic. But ironic enough, my court date ended up being one day before hers. So I went in front of this old white man, and I'm this 5'6" white, blonde white girl, and I'm just please let me have this. And he's he asks me kind of the same series of questions, although he's just as confused as pretty much everyone else because he has no idea what the marker for maturity is in this case because he's never seen a case like this.
Oh, so this
So
is
he
this
just,
this is this county's first time even doing these kind of procedures.
I'm the very first one, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And so, he asks me kind of the same series of questions, what's your life like? What's your dreams? What's your goals? What's your aspirations? Is the father still involved? Does he support you? What's your family situation like? And so at this point, I was able to tell him yeah, I'm homeless. I got kicked out of my house. I barely have enough money to pay for this procedure and these court hearings by itself, let alone actually having a baby. And so I think those kind of realish things I think really helped my side, and he ended up allowing me, which I was very surprised about. I thought we were going to have to appeal because my lawyer had prepared me in face of rejection, don't cry, just breathe, we'll go to appeals like right after this, we'll be okay.
And this is a different lawyer from last time, right?
Yeah, this one kind of lived in my area. He was
Yeah.
associated with the group, but but he had to physically be present with me this time.
And so now you're not on Zoom anymore this time. You're here in a place.
No, I'm in my local courthouse.
Okay. And so what happens?
And so my mom is basically suing for a temporary restraining order on any court proceedings dealing with me. And so
How does
Like,
wait, sorry to interrupt, but she's okay. So you said so she's suing like 5 different people. She's fucking suing the courthouse. She's suing. You said she sued you. What the fuck? What's her grounds for a lawsuit against you?
So I'm not too sure what the like legal jargon of it was, but she had teamed up with the lawyer, like the same group of pro-life lawyers, and then another lawyer from California. And basically their whole legal stance was to stop me from retaining this judicial bypass so that then their court proceedings against the state for allowing something along the lines of stopping me from getting the judicial bypass to then allow their court proceedings to go on and duke out whether or not this is legal or not, or whether
so their whole thing was they want to stop your procedure so that they can hope to win again to get you to not be able to get your judicial bypass.
Yes.
That's pretty fucked.
And she won, but it was
day too
late. It was 1 day too late because her court date was after mine. I had already been granted it.
So dude,
I had already gone to the clinic, like, because the day that my court hearing was, I had an appointment at the clinic again, and so I was able to, right after I left the courthouse, I went straight there, and then I started the medication. And once you start the medication, and after it's been so long, it can't stop. So by time 24 hours later, and it was their court hearing, I was already past the point where there was no salvation.
Dude, so, all right. So you get your judicial bypass granted by this local parish. And then, like, a day after, your mom wins her court case to prevent anyone from being able to get judicial bypass?
Yes, anyone in the entire state.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking crazy, man. Wow.
And then so at this time, like, my mom is not letting me live with her. Like, I am banned, barred, all of the above. And so my boyfriend, I'm like kind of living with my boyfriend and his aunt ends up kicking me out too.
Wow.
And she really doesn't like me. Like, she understood our circumstances and, like, she wants the best for her nephew, but she really doesn't like me. We've never gotten along. It's nothing personal, I don't think, but it had to do with, like, smoking weed and, like, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Is she also like a crazy religious person?
No, she's actually really cool. That was the weird thing about it, is, like, she let, like, her son and, like, her nephew smoke, but, like, whenever it came to me, like, she thought I was, like, a bad influence.
So now in the state of Louisiana, no, like, if you're 16 and you get pregnant, you cannot, and your mom, like, forces you to have a baby, you cannot get judicial bypass to get an abortion.
Well, not since Roe v. Wade overturned. You just can't get an abortion in Louisiana. But before, it was. But then once she figured out I had gotten my abortion, she dropped her lawsuit. Because she was like, there's no point in pursuing this if my daughter... Because if I would have ever gotten pregnant, like, right after, I would have been 18, would have been able to sign for my own.
Wait a minute. So after you get your second abortion, your mom stops fighting everyone because she's just like, well, there's no point anymore.
Yeah, she just lets go.
So, all right. So you were living with. All right. So you get your second abortion. Your mom is like doing whatever. You're living with your boyfriend and his aunt, and then his aunt kicks you out.
Yeah.
And then where do you go from there?
Well, I kind of just like I lived in my car for like a couple days, but then like that wasn't really, I couldn't really do that and go to school because I was still in school. Like, I was able to enroll back in school for my senior year. So I was like, well, this kind of can't work. So I called up my godfather, who was extremely religious. And, like, he knew everything that was going on. And I was like, hey, this is a situation. Like, I'm working on getting emancipated to like be able to sign to my own apartment, but because I'm not, no apartment complex will let me sign. Can I stay with you for a few months? And thank him. I thank him every day. He let me stay with him. I ended up staying with him for probably 4 months before I was able to get into my apartment and move out. But I got emancipated in that time. My lawyer like saw what my mom was doing and like all the litigation, and he was like, "Hey, I'll help you get emancipated, like no charge if you want to." I'm like, "Yes, please."
So you get emancipated when you're like what, 17?
Yeah, I think it was November 4th, 2021. I was 17. My mom was gonna try and fight it with one of like her lawyer friends, but whenever like I told her who I was gonna like have as witness, like her ex-boyfriend and like some other family members who she kind of fucked over, she was like, "Yeah, this is a losing battle."
God damn, dude. So, all right, so you get emancipated, and then what do you do? What do you do from there? You living with your? I'm sorry, you said your uncle?
My godfather. He was
Your
like kind of like
godfather.
my father figure in my life.
Okay, and so you're
Yeah,
living
I
with
just
him.
kind of live with him. I lived with him until the end of January, from like October, November-ish till January 2022. And then me and my boyfriend moved into our apartment, and I'm still a senior in high school.
Right now? Wait, you're senior high school right now?
No, I was
Okay.
at the time.
So you're like 17, 18, you're a senior in high school, you and your boyfriend move into an apartment. How are you paying for it? Do you guys have a job?
Yeah, well, I was working since right after my first one, and then he had been working since like 6 months before.
Mm-hmm.
So we were both high school seniors, just like working like normal jobs. Like I was working at Starbucks and he was working at a grocery store.
How'd you get time to work while being in high school?
Well, because I was a senior, I only had 2 classes. Like those were only the credits I needed to finish because I was like smart and did like some of my credits in middle school, so I didn't have to have like a full
You got
year.
the AP
senior
shit.
year. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have to go to school. So you were going to high school like kind of part-time and then on like a work release after that.
Yeah, so I was like going to school from like 7 to 9:30, and then I was like at work from like either like 10 to 5, or like I would work the closing like 12 to 9:30.
And that was I know a lot of like, did you like from like the Starbucks and the grocery store, you guys were able to make rent?
Yeah, it was actually pretty cheap. It was only like $500 whenever we first moved in.
Damn,
my
500
family
for
knows.
was a what, a 1-bedroom?
Yeah, it was like a 1-bedroom condo. It was like downstairs.
1-bedroom condo,
On the first
$500 a
floor.
month?
A 1-bedroom.
What, a 1-bedroom, $500 a
1-bedroom
month?
with that. Yeah.
Pretty fucking good,
My
bro.
family knows
Especially
the
between
guy
two
who
of you
owns
guys.
it. Yeah.
Jeez. Oh my god. And so are you still, is that where you're still living now?
Yep, until I graduate
And now you're in college.
college.
What do you study?
Microbiology.
Wow. And your boyfriend, what's he do?
He still works at the same grocery store, but he works in like the meat department.
Cool.
He like
And
does butcher stuff.
what's the hope and dream for you?
Definitely move out of this town. Definitely probably states, maybe countries. I kind of just want to live like a little farm life in a cottage in like the mountains and just garden.
Mm-hmm. So, did you ever talk to your mom again?
Yeah, about like whenever I was moving in, she like slowly started to like integrate her way back into my life. Like she offered to like buy us a TV and like buy us groceries.
Really?
And like I was piss poor broke at the time. I'm not going to deny the help. So she like slowly started to ease her way in that way. And then now it's crazy to say, but we're actually kind of cool. It's like
Really?
not really mother-daughter. We're like more so just friends.
Really?
But I mean, like, she tells me all of her drama with her. I'm kind of like her therapist in a way.
Really?
Like, I just kind of listen to her drama and stuff, and I give her advice, and that's about as far as our relationship goes. I mean, it's nothing ever too personal.
So you and your mom, I mean, goddamn, your mom, like, just makes your life fucking hell for 2 years during this crazy difficult time. She's doing all this insane litigation stuff, really not being a mom. And then later, like, what's the deal? So she starts like slowly like integrating herself back into, like, I guess, okay, so she leaves. So you're in the hospital, you find out that you're pregnant again, she leaves. You don't hear from her much, I guess, except her like suing everyone. And then when does she start to come back into your life, and how?
Well, like, after I got emancipated, the only contact she had on me was email. So she just started emailing me like once a week, just giving updates about her life and like asking how I'm doing. And I never responded. I would just like look at them, I would read them, I would kind of sigh, and then I would just delete them. And that went on for probably about 3 months. And then like whenever we were moving in, I still had some stuff at my mom's house. So I needed to like go back to like get the rest of my stuff. Like my bed was still there and that kind of stuff. And she was going to let me take it. And so all of our contact was like between my grandma. So like I would just ask my grandma to ask her like when I could go and that kind of stuff. And then whenever like I got to her house, we just kind of got to talking, and it was like, it's kind of weird to say, but it was like you could feel the tension like from the stuff that just happened, but it was also kind of like normal in a way, because my mom's like always kind of done me dirty, like she's kind of always done me wrong. So like us being in that situation where like her asking for forgiveness and like asking to be let back into my life isn't something new. So I'm kind of like, I guess, used to that. I'm like used to her asking to come back.
And despite everything, you found the strength to is forgive her the right word? Would you say you've forgiven her by letting her back into your life?
I think I have. I think I've forgiven. I just haven't forgot. Like it still dawns on me sometimes, like especially whenever like we talk about like certain topics and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, like I understand a lot of it is due to like her drugs and her alcoholism and how selfish that can make her, and how like during that time the drugs were definitely not helping and probably just fueling into her selfishness. And so like I guess I kind of recognize that, and I guess I kind of not like blame, but like I guess I expect her to do that kind of stuff because of the drugs. So like in a way I know it's not her. Like I know it's not like my mom that's doing that.
And so she's sense? Yeah, it does. It does. I mean that's a lot of so you're kind of like her therapist now? Like she'll come to you for like advice and to vent?
Yeah, so like she's dating this guy who has the same name as her ex. And so like whenever they first started dating, she like would come to me and she would be like, do I tell him? Do I not tell him? And then like she just like there's like I definitely have boundaries with her, but she has no boundaries with me. Like any topic in her life is like completely okay to talk about with me. So like she's like talking to me about like their intimacy like compared to her ex and that kind of stuff, and asking like my opinion on that, or like asking like if she should text him or if she should not text him.
Really? Wow, man.
Yeah.
Your mom's a doozy.
She's something, that's for sure.
And I mean, how do you feel? Like, do you being in this after this whole entire crazy saga? I mean, how do you feel about being in this position with her?
I mean, honestly, I think I'm just relieved because the situation could have gone a lot worse. Like, I mean, I could have 2 babies right now, or I could have a baby. and being in college and stuff like that. And so I think because things worked out in my favor the way I wanted them to, gives me a lot of room to be gracious. Like, I'm not going to have a forever child reminding me of what my mom tried to do with me. Like, I don't have that forever scar unless, like, I really, like, think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, look, man, right now, you know, being 20 and living in this apartment and you're working, going to school, you're doing all these things. I mean, you could do it with if you had a kid, but it'd be 1,000 fucking times harder. And then, you know, you'd build resentment, you'd build further resentment for your mom, and that might lead into resentment for the kid. And it would just been a fucking, you know, disaster.
Yeah, it was never a healthy situation to start with.
I'm going to just real quick, I'm going to ask if the chat has any questions for you, because this has been by the way, I want to thank you. I'll let the chat put some questions and I'll pick some questions from the chat. But I want to thank you for talking to us about this whole crazy story. I hope it was beneficial or helpful to you to talk through. I mean, it's totally wild, and I have tons of respect for you for a lot of things, for, you know, your ability to continue to have a relationship with your mom, withstanding all of these, withstanding this whole saga, and for your ability to stay strong throughout it all and to kind of be able to emerge, you know, with a good, happy life on the other end of it.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Someone wants to know if you have advice for women in similar scenarios.
Go with your gut feeling, because I have never regretted my choices ever in the slightest, not one bit. It's a really hard decision, and I completely empathize with you, but just always do what's best for you, no matter what anybody thinks, because at the end of the day, you got to live with the choice.
Someone asked, do you ever want a kid?
To be determined. After being really sick that first time, new research has found out that it's actually genetic. So if I ever do become pregnant again, it might happen again. And I don't know if that's something that I'm willing to, like, put my life at risk for. And adoption's always a good option, I think, if I ever want a child in my life. But I have really big aspirations to travel and to live my life to the extent. And if a child fits in there, then a child fits in. But if not, I don't have any desire right now.
Someone said, what kept you going when it looked dire?
My boyfriend was a really big help. He was a really big support to lean on, and to just hear me vent over and over about my mom and how I couldn't believe it. Weed helped a lot. My anxiety was really bad. Like, my sickness was really bad. And just thinking about my future, honestly, I've always been a big dreamer. That kind of always helped me when I was younger and my mom was using and I was scared. So I just kept dreaming of, like, my dream vacations, and I would just plan them out in my head whenever I got over anxious, and that, like, always helped calm me down, because I always had something to look forward to and not look back at.
Someone asked, which fast food joint you think has the best French fries?
McDonald's, when they're crispy and salty.
Yeah. I've been into Burger King recently. I was at a Burger King at the airport, and they have all these, like, breakfast options. It was like 7 a.m, and they have all these breakfast options, but at the very bottom, it's a tab, and it literally says on the tablet, do you want a Whopper for breakfast? And I was like, I kind of do. And so I ate a Whopper and fries at 7 a.m. It was pretty good. I don't know why I threw that in there, but let's see if there's any. Okay. This is the last one, and I'm curious about this. Where do you want to go? You said you want to travel a lot. What's your dream destination?
Oh, my dream is probably. Man, that's hard. Probably Italy. I really like Italian culture. I really like Italian food, too. But I have a trip planned to Scotland and Ireland next summer, right after the finals of my junior year. So I'm really excited for that.
What's your name again?
Ariana.
Ariana. Well, Ariana, look, I'll say it again. I mean, dude, like going through all this shit, having, you know, especially without your dad and with your mom being crazy, and it's just, I'm inspired by how you were able to deal with all this shit and then still come back on top, and you're out here living your best life and you're making it work, and you seem like you're happy, and you know, congrats to you on all that stuff.
Thanks, Geck.
Well, is there anything else that you want to say to the people of the computer, or about the story, or about French fries, or anything at all before we go?
Make good choices. If you don't make good choices, you can always change them.
Well, take care, Ariana, and thank you for calling and sharing your story.
Thanks, Geck.
Later, dude.
Later.
That's crazy, man. I mean, I'm very lucky. I have supportive parents. 'Cause, you know, I don't know. It's one thing like being if you're going to be like a piece of shit in your own universe, right? Like self-destructive and, you know, make bad choices. Like, I get it. You know, I get it. But to do all of that as like an attack on your own child is fucked up. So whatever. I mean, I really have a deep respect for Ariana. Like, after all that, man, she still she's willing to hang out with her mom and give her boy advice. I mean, that takes a lot of that kind of forgiveness. It takes a lot of character. It really does. To do all that, to take all that like evil stuff her mom was doing, and then recognize that beneath all of that is a woman who is struggling with her addiction and her, you know, drug abuse and alcoholism and problems with her own relationships. And of course, and look, she could look at all that and be like, I don't give a fuck, I'm not responsible for that, you're a grown woman, you can handle it. And, you know, she can do that if she wanted to, but this is not what she did. She recognized it and she went, you know what, I'll be your girly, you know, tell me about this guy. And I really have a deep respect for that. It reminds me of, I've talked about this before, I've talked about fucking Toy Story 3. It reminds me of that scene in Toy Story 3 where Lotso Huggenbear, he had just fucked over all of the toys, and he was just fucking them over. He was scheming hard to fuck them over, and he does, and he sends them all into the trash, but then he also gets sent into the trash, and all the toys are like grabbing metal stuff to like avoid the incinerator. You guys know what I'm talking about? And then they're about to like get over the incinerator when Lotso Huggenbear is like, help me, I'm stuck, I'm down here, I'm stuck, I need help. And do you know what? And everyone's like, come on, Woody, we gotta go, fucking leave him, he's a piece of shit, leave him. And then what does Woody do? It makes me cry to think about it every time. What does Woody do? Because he's Woody and he has this like immaculate character to him. He fucking goes down there and he saves Lotso Huggenbear from the incinerator, because that's the kind of guy he is. And then do you know what Lotso Huggenbear does? He fucks them over again. It's insane. I think about this movie all the time. Anyway, I don't know, this just reminded me of that. Thank you for sharing your story, Ariana.
Therapy Gecko's on the line, taking your phone calls every night. Therapy Gecko's doing it right, he's teaching you how to live your life, but he's not really an expert.